Hey there, Amplifiers. Manny Torres here with the Growth Amplifiers podcast. And my guest today is Marie Torossian. And Marie has spent nearly 12 years in the private and public accounting sectors. And as a past auditor and CFO, she knows that financial analysis is key to business growth. Armed with that knowledge, she launched her consulting services in 2016. And her goal is to help entrepreneurs, startups, and the small businesses succeed. Welcome to the show, Marie.
Thanks for having me, Manny. I appreciate it.
Well, excellent. Well, I'm really excited to have you here today. You work with a lot of the same types of businesses that we interact with. And I know you mentioned that you work with entrepreneurs and small businesses, but what are the main challenges that you're helping them overcome?
Yeah. So majority of the challenges that I've seen as entrepreneurs start their businesses is that initially they don't really focus on their financial data as much and then their financial growth patterns. So they just start off in let's say a great idea, which is awesome. That's very important. A lot of marketing goes into it. A lot of expenses go to it, but there's no specific plan as to how they're going to achieve the next steps of their goals of reaching that next level, right? So, and if we don't have any financial data set up properly, then we really can't analyze numbers. So that's one of the key things that I see it's holding them back.
Yeah, and I can relate to that because, as an advisor and as a marketing support team for a lot of clients, sometimes we're working with a client and they're asking us to drive leads for their business. And we look at their numbers and we're saying, hey, wait a minute, have you really looked at your pricing? Are these services profitable for you? How do you get those businesses to allow you to kind of pull back the curtain to see, those numbers in their business? Do you find that some of them are a little reluctant to share that information?
There are some people that are that way. We can experience that, and my answer with that for them would be like, I can't do my job. I can't help you succeed if I can't see the numbers. So part of my process is to make sure if they're giving me a set of financials, I do a specific, like very high level dive first. And I look at the numbers, see if they kind of make sense. Something seems off. For example, let's say looking at profit and loss statement month to month, right? So that's something they may not be looking at. When I look at it, I can already visualize a trend. If something is off, it's going to be very obvious. So I can't provide any kind of additional support if I'm not sure of the numbers. I may have to go in and ask for a little bit more details. And but yeah, they may get uncomfortable, but the idea is that, hey, let me help you. You know what I mean?
Exactly right. If someone's not willing to receive that help, it's going to be really tough. So what does that look like, when you're helping that business, in that, say, like first 30 days, in terms of starting to get in there and help them understand their numbers and be able to see the data that's important for their business?
Yes. So part of the process is, of course, like I said, reviewing their numbers and based on the type of service they've asked us to do, and let's say we're preparing their projections for the following year. We want to make sure that the data we're starting off with is accurate. The next step is the goals and, where are they envisioning themselves to be? So there's a lot of non-financial conversations at first because we want to understand the overall goal. What is the strategy? What is the point? What is the impact? And then we translate that into specific numbers. Then similar, like what you said, we may look at how they're charging, their pricing strategy. And if that's really, if the revenue generated is actually covering the cost, what are the direct costs? What are the operational costs? So there's a lot of key things we want to see in how they're interacting to make sure we give them the proper guidance and prepare that projections for the following year.
And I'm sure that knowledge for those clients must be a really comforting thing for them, right? Because, not knowing is probably the biggest fear or anxiety that a lot of businesses have. So, even if there's a problem there, as long as they know what it is and they can fix it, that must be a relief to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if I think most business owners get either the distraction of the day-to-day tasks, handling clients and all that, but they never really have a structured way of reviewing data, the financial data. So part of what we want to do is have them have that structured meeting time where we're like, okay, this week on this date and this time, we're going to cover the financials and what you did last month, so that they can start feeling more and more comfortable looking at those numbers. And when we explain the trends, and they get a better comfort as to, okay, well, if something didn't work out, this is what we can do. Or if it worked out, we're like, great, so let's just do more of that. So, it's very important to review financials. And not too long ago, I actually put a post out there on LinkedIn, because I was just, testing, just wanted to do a little survey. And actually, I think that post got about over 1,000 views. Only, about 2% came out that they would review the financials, and everybody else is not. It is crazy, because there's so many businesses out there and they're not really doing a basic financial statements review month to month.
Yeah, that's incredible. And it's amazing that those businesses stay in business. And I guess actually, there is a high failure rate in business. And that's probably why, because these business owners are not looking at their numbers. They're not making a habit of understanding their numbers. And if they don't have someone like you there to support them, 1 month they're going to find out that they're actually out of business. So I definitely agree that they need to make that part of their weekly habits for their business. So could you share a case study or a story of a business owner that you've been able to help to understand their numbers?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the ones I really love, and this was when I was still a consultant, and really this was one of the biggest projects I had, which kind of prompted me to start my firm. And it was a client that had inventory, a client that was already about 5 years into business, $5 million in gross revenues. They were growing fast. They were able to get really awesome multi-year contracts, but somehow they weren't really making profit. And as they had an investor come by and interested in their business, they needed more help as to managing their expenses and really understanding where the money is going, because there was a delay in cash flow, money coming in, or if the money comes out, it went out before they even knew what it was for. There was no structured way of looking at the numbers and making sure that the expenses are matching with the revenues on the same period. So one of the other things that most business owners do is they start on a cash basis, which is basically money came in, money went out, but they don't take into consideration money still owed for things that you've purchased, or work you've done and you need to collect the money on. So when an investor comes in, they can't really make heads or tails of your gross profit and the net profit percentages, and they're like, we don't know what to pay you for a specific percentage of your company. So one of the key things we had to do was convert this company to a GAAP basis, so that the investor can have a look at, what are really owed, so they can see if they want to invest in there. The other things we worked on, and this is something really huge, is putting in the policies and procedures. For example, when should they follow up on accounts receivable? When should they pay their bills? Expense reimbursement requests. Who's approving? Who's authorizing? What are the levels? What is their, let's say, travel budget? There is really nothing there that they could really have a structure for. So we had to put a lot of policies and structure in place to help them, gauge and then launch their business to the next level. And right now they have actually achieved, in the past 2 years, they have actually achieved not only purchasing their own warehouse, but actually having a second location in another state. So a lot of the work that needs to go in the beginning, it's between the time that they hit their first million, and that's where a lot of things start happening fast. And if they don't have the structures in place, they're not going to grow. So luckily, the CEO realized at 5 million, I'm like, something is off, I need help. And he invested in my consulting services to be able to put the structures in and move forward.
That makes a lot of sense, because, as you're growing, if you don't have those systems and processes in place, you're going to have those bottlenecks where either you don't know where the money's going, or you can't manage all the things that are happening. And, that's something that we advise our clients on a lot is, identify those bottlenecks, bring in the experts that can help you in whatever sector of your business that makes sense. And for that, they're really adding a lot of value to their business, because as you mentioned, those investors are going to come in, and if they see systems and processes, that means less work that they have to do. They can just come in and help scale the business right away. So that's wonderful that you can help those businesses set up those systems and processes.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And that comes from my auditor background too, which I use part of my processes. So another area that I'm helping business owners with is, for example, I have a client that is purchasing different businesses right now. So I help them with the business valuation, and I use softwares and tools to help get things done a lot faster. And again, some of the things I see happen is that my client sends me, the financials of the prospective purchasing, the company, and I can't make heads or tails of the numbers. And I push back and be like, this is not making sense. I don't advise you taking any action at this moment unless they provide all the supporting documents. And then I may have to talk to their accountant or a tax accountant who doesn't really necessarily focus on if the numbers are correct. It's just they're filing taxes based on numbers provided. So there's a big difference between the type of work that I'm trying to do and making sure that business owners are really set for success.
That's excellent. And that's another thing that we really coach our clients and just business owners in general is, don't wait until you want to sell your business or something happens to be prepared. This is something that's going to take time to do it right. And the more effort and support that you get to do that, the better it's going to be in the long run. You started to mention the types of businesses that you work with. Who's an ideal client for you?
Yeah. So right now, what I'm working with is mostly service-based companies. So think of, medical practice, law firm, IT consultancy, anyone that is a service-based industry. We can definitely work with other industries as well, but that is my current focus. And I'm trying to help in businesses that have hit their first million, because that is really the key that I'm seeing the biggest bottleneck at that point. Because sometimes they do DIYing until they get to that million, and then they have no idea what to do next. And that's where we need the most important structure, correct financial data, and to help them get to that next level of, let's say it's 5 million, then 10 million, 15 million, 20 million. And what I use is a specific process that I've called VALUEATION-MT. And the first thing I would do is use my valuation tool to put them in that position and say, okay, your business against your industry, this is where it stands. Now let's start looking at what you're doing. Let's build your financial data properly. Let's leverage your cash flow. Let's look at your prices, establish the policies, create the walkthroughs, because at some point within that time, they're going to start needing some loans, and the loan, bank is going to ask for audited financials. And if they're not set for the third-party financial audit, it's going to be difficult to get that loan. So what I want to do is get them help right in the beginning so that everything else becomes smoother at the end.
That's excellent. Yeah, because what got you here is not going to get you where you want to go. And, you're really setting them up for success. So that's a great service that you're providing. So Marie, what's the best way for our listeners to connect with you if they're that business owner that's at that $1 million mark and they're starting to feel the stress and the bottlenecks are starting to build up? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have my website, www.marietorossiancpa.com/services. My calendar is right there. I do a 30-minute free strategy session for anyone interested to kind of just get to know me, and let's see where their problems are, and so we can find the right solutions for them. I would also like to offer my free ebook. They can download it at guide.marietorossiancpa.com. And it's about 25 pages, not overwhelming. It will give you all the important high-level information that you need to kind of, realize where your bottleneck is, and then you'll know if you need to reach out to me.
Excellent. Well, we'll make sure to put those in the show notes. I think that's an incredible offer there. 30 minutes, obviously you're having a lot of great expertise. So 30 minutes would be a valuable use of your time if you're that type of business. And Marie, I see the 10X back there. I know you're a big fan of continuing education. One of the traditions that we have on our show is to share something that's helped you along your path of growing and becoming a successful entrepreneur that you'd like to share with the audience. It could either be directly with your business, or it could just be a life lesson that you've learned along your path.
Yeah, absolutely. What I well, there's different things, of course, in your life cycle, right? You know, we learn different things. So I think as I started my entrepreneurial journey, one of the key things I've noticed about myself is my resilience, and that comes from my background. I grew up in Lebanon and during wartime, and there's not much that scares me, and I look at things, right at the face, and I will attack. So because when you're trying to save yourself, that's how it is. You just don't think of all the other things that could go wrong. You just take the action that gets you to safety. Second thing is I'm an avid learner. I always want to learn new things, and then as soon as I get to a point where I'm not getting challenged, I need to find it. So that's something I think as entrepreneurs, I encourage everyone to find that continuous learning opportunity. And for me, for this past year, since actually October 2020, 10X with Grant Cardone has been the biggest continued education I think I've done, especially that I'm switching gears from being just, instead of being just a CPA, but being a business owner and having to market my business and, in a way, I don't want to say sell, but really do the business development. And I was not trained in that. We don't get trained that kind of stuff in college. So I have a CPA, I'm a CGMA, and I can have all these, licenses. But the point is that if I don't know how to do business development for my business and how to market, there's really no business. So for me, 10X has been a great community, a very supportive community. And Grant has been a great mentor to me.
Excellent. Well, I love those insights. And I think they kind of align, one is not being fearful and the other one, getting out of your comfort zone. So it's almost attacking fear in a different way. So I love those insights. And I really appreciate you being here. I think your mission is very similar to ours. We're looking to help more advisors and CPAs and accountants connect with business owners and look proactively versus retroactively on what's happened. Instead of reporting on the past, let's look and see how we can help you grow in the future. So appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for being on the show. And
Thank you.
for our listeners, make sure that you reach out and schedule that consultation. Thank you.
Thank you.
To show your support, take a moment to amplify this message by sharing it online. To connect with me or gain more business growth insights, visit www.growthamplifiers.com. Thank you for your support.